I knew something was coming. It had been brewing for months, maybe even longer. After our parents' death, things between my sister and me had never been the same. What had been a somewhat tolerable distance between us before turned into something much worse. A coldness. A divide. A barrier I didn't know how to cross, even if I wanted to. Her name is Claire, and if you'd met her, you'd think she was the perfect older sister. The kind who always had everything together. The kind who was calm, composed, and practical. Qualities I always seemed to lack. I was the screw-up, the black sheep. And now, in this new reality we were left with after our parents died, I was the one who needed help. But she was the one who seemed to want nothing to do with me. We weren't always like this. There was a time when we got along, when we laughed together, when we shared secrets and dreams. But that was before they were gone, before everything fell apart. The house was silent when I walked in that afternoon. The usual hum of activity was gone. Claire was in the kitchen, her back to me as she rummaged through the cabinets. It wasn't unusual for her to be quiet, but today, something felt different. The air was heavy, like the calm before a storm. I could almost taste the tension between us. I stood there for a moment, just watching her. My heart beat a little faster, unsure of what to say. Part of me wanted to walk away, pretend everything was fine, but I knew I couldn't anymore. I couldn't ignore the way she looked at me now, the way she spoke to me, the way she barely tolerated my presence. Finally, Claire turned around, her eyes meeting mine. She didn't smile. She didn't even look relieved to see me. Instead, her face was stone, expressionless. "You're home early," she said, the words flat and distant. I shrugged, not knowing what to say. What was the point of asking how she was? We both knew the answer. "I just needed some air," I mumbled. "It's been hard, you know?" Her gaze flickered briefly, but she didn't say anything. The silence stretched between us, thick and uncomfortable. Then, without warning, Claire placed a small box on the counter. A simple cardboard box. Nothing special about it, yet it seemed to carry a weight far greater than its size. She didn't speak as she nudged it toward me. I frowned, not understanding. "What's this?" I asked, trying to sound casual, but my voice betrayed me. It cracked, the uncertainty slipping through. "You don't live here anymore," she said, her voice cool, almost clinical. No emotion, nothing, just cold words, like she had rehearsed them 1,000 times in her mind. I stared at her, trying to process what she had just said. It didn't make sense. "What? What are you talking about?" Her eyes finally met mine, but there was no warmth in them, no softness. It was as if she was looking at a stranger, not the brother she had grown up with. "I can't keep doing this," she continued, her voice gaining a little strength. "You can't stay here anymore. You need to move out." The words hit me harder than I expected. I couldn't breathe for a moment. I wanted to argue, to tell her that everything was falling apart for me, that I needed a place to stay, that this house was all I had left. But I didn't say anything. I just looked at the box on the counter, wondering how everything had turned so wrong. For a few long seconds, I didn't know what to do. I couldn't believe this was happening. My mind was racing, but my body just froze. I felt trapped in some nightmare, unable to wake up. Claire sighed, clearly irritated with the silence. "I don't want to do this either, but it's not healthy for either of us. It's time for you to go." I felt something stirring inside of me, anger, sadness, confusion. But I didn't know how to let it out. I wanted to shout, to throw something, to make her understand how unfair this was. But instead, I stayed silent. I couldn't bear the thought of losing my last piece of home, my last connection to everything I had known. But then, something in me shifted. A quiet resolve. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. She didn't notice. She was too busy turning away, already moving toward the door like she couldn't wait to get rid of me. The recording had been running for a while now. I didn't know what would happen after this, but I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't the end. This was just the beginning. It was only after she turned and walked away that I finally let out the breath I didn't even realize I'd been holding. The weight in my chest was crushing, but I couldn't allow myself to show it. Not yet. Not while I still had something to hold on to. Something I wasn't sure she would ever know about. The box she had given me, the one that had felt so final, still sat there on the counter. I didn't touch it. Not yet. I had other things to focus on. I pulled my phone from my pocket and hit the button to stop the recording. The small device had been hidden there for weeks, a quiet companion that I hoped would help me make sense of everything. I had known something was wrong for a long time. It wasn't just her words. It was the way she spoke to me, the way she avoided me, the way she looked through me instead of at me, like I was some inconvenience she had no interest in dealing with. There was a bitterness there, a hidden resentment that I had tried to ignore. But after everything that had happened with Mom and Dad's passing, I couldn't just pretend it wasn't there anymore. The conversation I had recorded wasn't the first one where I'd caught her acting strangely. It wasn't even the first time I had felt the chill in her voice. But it was the first time I had the evidence, the first time I had something that might help me understand why she was doing this to me. I sat down at the kitchen table, the silence heavy around me. The only sound was the soft hum of the refrigerator in the corner. The house, which had once felt like home, now felt like a strange and foreign place. My mind raced as I replayed the conversation in my head. "You need to move out," she had said. Why? What had changed? Had she always been like this and I never noticed? Or had something happened, something she was hiding from me? I had to find out. I pulled up the recording on my phone and hit play. At first, all I could hear was the sound of Claire's voice. But then, something changed. A second, quieter voice broke through. One I didn't recognize at first. It was faint, almost like an afterthought, but it was there. I froze, leaning closer to the phone. The voice was talking to Claire, almost whispering. "Are you sure you want to do this? What if he finds out?" I felt my heart skip a beat. I didn't recognize the voice, but the way it spoke was familiar, intimate, like it was someone she trusted, someone she confided in. But I had no idea who it was. Claire didn't respond immediately. There was a pause, and then I heard her voice again, this time quieter, almost as if she was trying to make sure no one else could hear. "He won't find out. I've made sure of it. He's too clueless to see what's been happening." The words hit me like a slap in the face. I had never felt so exposed, so vulnerable. What was she talking about? What had she done? And why was she keeping it from me? The recording went silent for a few seconds, and I sat there, stunned. Claire had always been distant, but this was something different, something deeper. I couldn't ignore it. I couldn't let it go. I needed answers, and I needed to know who that voice belonged to. I replayed the recording again, but this time I listened harder. I tried to pick up any details, any clues that could help me understand what was going on. But the conversation was so fragmented, the voices so faint, that it was almost impossible to make sense of it. But I knew one thing for sure. There was more to this than I had thought. Claire had been hiding something from me, something she didn't want me to know, and now it was up to me to uncover it. I turned off the recording and put the phone down, my mind swirling with questions. Who was the other person? And what was she planning? I couldn't stay here, not with her treating me like I was some burden to be tossed aside. But I also couldn't leave without getting to the bottom of this. I had to find out what was really going on. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, all I could see was Claire's cold, unfeeling face as she handed me that box. "You don't live here anymore," her words echoed in my mind, and the quiet, ominous whisper of the second voice kept replaying over and over in my head. Who had she been talking to? What was she hiding? I couldn't just sit around and wonder. I had to find out more. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that this wasn't just about me being an inconvenience to her. This wasn't just about her wanting me gone so she could have the house to herself. There was something else, a deeper motive, a secret that she didn't want me to know. I had to confront her. I had to get her to tell me the truth. The next morning, I woke up early. I had a plan. A vague one, but a plan nonetheless. I knew that confronting her head-on might not be the best approach, not yet at least. She would just shut down and deflect, like she always did. So, I decided to gather more evidence. I had to dig deeper. I started with the house. I knew Claire well enough to understand that she wouldn't leave anything out in the open. She kept things locked away, literally and figuratively. But there was always something, a crack in the armor. She couldn't keep everything hidden. I spent the next few hours going through the house. It wasn't an easy task. She had always been meticulous, keeping things organized to the point of obsession, but I knew the layout well. I knew where to look. I started with her bedroom, knowing that's where she would keep the things she valued most. The drawer by her bed was the first place I checked. Nothing unusual, just some old papers, a few photos of Mom and Dad. But then I pulled out a folder from the back, and that's when I found it. An envelope, sealed and marked with the words "For Claire" in handwriting I didn't recognize. My heart skipped. I opened the envelope carefully, unfolding the letter inside. The handwriting was neat, almost too neat, and the words were simple. You need to follow through with the plan. There's no turning back now. Do it quickly, or the consequences will be worse than you can imagine. I felt my stomach drop. What plan? What consequences? I stood there holding the letter, my mind racing. This was it. This was the answer I had been searching for. Claire had been planning something she didn't want anyone, especially me, to know about. The voice in the recording, the whispering, now made sense. She was involved in something bigger than I had ever realized. I folded the letter back into the envelope and placed it carefully in my pocket. I had to know more. I had to confront her with this, but I needed more proof. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. Just as I was about to leave her room, I heard footsteps approaching. My heart jumped into my throat. Claire. I froze, quickly hiding the envelope in my pocket. I had to act normal, like I hadn't just invaded her privacy. The door to the hallway creaked open, and there she was. She didn't look at me at first. She was carrying a cup of coffee, but I could see the tension in her shoulders. She was nervous. Had she noticed something was off? "You're up early," she said, her tone stiff. I gave her a tight smile. "Couldn't sleep." She nodded but didn't say anything else. She walked past me, and for a moment, I thought I might say something. I wanted to ask her about the letter, about the plan she was involved in, but I knew better than to show my cards too soon. "Anything on your mind?" she asked, her back still turned. I hesitated. I couldn't just blurt out what I had found. I had to play this carefully. "I was just thinking about what you said yesterday," I started, my voice quiet. "About me needing to move out. It's just hard to understand why. We were family. We are family." She stiffened at the word family, and I could see her grip tightening on the coffee mug. "I've already explained myself. I'm doing what's best for both of us. You can't keep hiding here forever." I wanted to push, to demand answers, but I held back. Instead, I let the silence stretch between us, watching her every move, trying to gauge whether she was hiding something else. I could tell she was uncomfortable. Good. But then, before I could say anything else, she turned and walked out of the room, the door clicking shut behind her. I didn't have much time. I knew she'd be watching me more closely now. But I couldn't stop. Not now. Not when I was so close to the truth. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was walking on a razor's edge. Every moment felt like a carefully calculated step, one that could send everything crashing down if I wasn't careful. The letter I'd found was a crucial piece of the puzzle, but it was still only a piece. And pieces alone don't tell the whole story. I knew now that Claire was hiding something. But what? And why go to such lengths to push me out of the house? Why would she want to cut me off, especially when everything that had happened should have brought us closer, not further apart? What was she trying to protect? And why didn't she want me involved? I spent the next few days observing her, trying to catch her off guard. I knew she was hiding something, maybe more than one thing, and I was determined to find out what it was. I spent hours going through the house, digging through drawers, looking for any other clues. I had no clear plan, no idea of where to start, but I couldn't ignore the nagging feeling that something in this house was tied to everything that had gone wrong. The secrets were buried here, and if I just kept looking, maybe I could find them. But every time I thought I might be getting closer to the truth, Claire would come around and I'd have to cover my tracks. I started to feel like a shadow in my own home, always lurking, always trying to stay one step ahead of her. It was on the fourth day after our confrontation that I found it, the thing that made everything fall into place. I had been snooping around the attic when I stumbled upon an old suitcase tucked in the corner behind a stack of boxes. The suitcase was weathered and faded, and I could barely make out the name on the label. It was Claire's. At first, I almost turned away. It seemed too personal, too invasive, but something pulled me back. I had to know. I had to see what was in it. I knelt down and pried it open. The hinges squeaked in protest, but I didn't care. Inside, there were papers, lots of them, old documents, receipts, and photographs. But what caught my eye was the small, leather-bound journal at the top. I hesitated for a moment, then grabbed it and flipped it open. The pages were filled with Claire's neat handwriting, but it wasn't what she'd written that made my stomach tighten. It was the date. The entries went back years, long before our parents had died. The entries described a relationship, one that Claire had never told me about. As I scanned the pages, I saw that Claire had been involved with someone I had never known about. She had kept this hidden from me for years. The man's name was Daniel, and from what I could gather, their relationship was secret, something they didn't want anyone to find out about. But the real shock came when I read the last few entries. Claire had written about a meeting with Daniel shortly before our parents passed away. Her words were frantic, panicked, and it didn't take much reading between the lines to realize that she was involved in something dangerous, something she was too afraid to talk about. The entries hinted at a business deal gone wrong, something involving money, power, and people who weren't afraid to get their hands dirty. Claire had gotten caught up in something deep, something that was spiraling out of control. My heart pounded in my chest as I turned the pages, my eyes darting over the words. Claire had been dealing with threats, real threats, from people who wouldn't hesitate to harm anyone in their way. The more I read, the more I realized that everything that had happened between us, all the distance, the coldness, it wasn't just her being frustrated with me. She was scared. She had been trying to protect me. But from what? And that's when I understood. The inheritance, the house. It wasn't about the money. It wasn't about our parents' estate. It was about something much darker. Something Claire didn't want me to see. The secret she had been hiding wasn't just hers. It was mine too. Suddenly, everything clicked into place. The reason she wanted me gone. The reason she had pushed me out of the house. It wasn't just to get rid of me. It was because she was trying to shield me from whatever was going on behind the scenes. She wanted me to stay away from the mess she had gotten herself tangled up in. I slammed the journal shut, my mind reeling. I couldn't ignore this anymore. I had to confront her, but I had to do it carefully. She had always been the calm one, the rational one, but now I wasn't so sure. I had seen the cracks in her armor, and they were bigger than I ever imagined. The only problem now was figuring out how deep this rabbit hole really went, and how I was going to pull myself out of it. I had never felt more conflicted in my life. The truth about Claire, about everything she had been hiding from me, was like a weight I couldn't carry alone. I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to admit that my sister, the person I had always trusted, had been hiding such a dangerous secret. But there it was, staring me in the face. I couldn't unsee what I had discovered in that journal, and I couldn't ignore the implications. She had been involved with something far darker than I had ever imagined. Whatever it was clear that it was the reason she had pushed me away. The reason she had tried so hard to keep me in the dark. I had to confront her. But this time, I wasn't just going to let her deflect. I needed answers. I needed her to explain everything. I waited for the right moment. I knew Claire was always careful about when she came and went, but today seemed different. There was a tension in the air, something I hadn't felt before. I could sense that something was coming to a head. It was as if she was waiting for something too. When she finally walked through the door later that afternoon, I was ready. She glanced at me briefly, her eyes flicking over my face with a guarded expression. "What's going on?" she asked, her tone sharp, as though she already knew I had found something. I didn't waste any time. I stood up, meeting her gaze, and said the one thing I had been holding back for so long. "I know about Daniel." For a brief moment, I saw the color drain from her face. It was only for a split second, but it was enough. She was caught off guard. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice suddenly tight. "You've been hiding it from me for years, Claire. I know everything. About the business deal, the threats, the people you've been involved with." I took a step closer, my voice growing steadier with each word. "And I know why you've been trying to push me out of the house. It's not just about me being a burden. It's about protecting me from whatever you've gotten yourself into." She stepped back, her eyes flicking nervously around the room. She stopped herself, closing her eyes for a brief moment as if she were trying to gather her thoughts. "You shouldn't know this." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The fear in her voice, the way she avoided looking me in the eye, it was all too real. She wasn't just afraid for me, she was afraid of something much bigger than both of us. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, my voice softening now, but the hurt was still there. "Why keep me in the dark? We're family. We're supposed to trust each other." Her face twisted in a way I had never seen before, and for the first time she looked vulnerable. The tough exterior she had built for so long was cracking. "I didn't want to drag you into it," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You don't know what it's like. I got involved in something I shouldn't have, but now there's no turning back." I watched her carefully, trying to make sense of what she was saying. She wasn't just trying to protect me, she was also trying to protect herself. Whatever this was, it was dangerous. But the question remained, how far did it go? And how much had she been hiding from me? "You're not the only one at risk, Claire," I said, a bit of anger creeping into my voice. "I'm part of this family, too. You can't just shut me out because you think you're protecting me. I deserve to know what's really going on." There was a long pause as she stared at me, as if weighing her options. For a moment, I thought she might shut me out again. But then, something in her expression changed. She finally exhaled deeply, and when she spoke again, her voice was heavy with resignation. "It started before our parents died," she began, the words slow and careful. "I met Daniel through a business deal. It was supposed to be a simple investment. But things went south quickly. Daniel's associates aren't people you want to mess with. I thought I could get out, but it wasn't that easy. They wanted more from me. And when Mom and Dad passed, it became even harder to get out. The debts piled up, the threats started, and the only way to protect you, protect both of us, was to keep you in the dark, keep you away from it all." I could see the weight of her words settling on her shoulders. This was bigger than I had thought. It wasn't just a business deal gone wrong, it was a dangerous mess she had been tangled in, one that she didn't know how to escape. And now, it had come to a head. The people she had been hiding from weren't going to stop. Not now. "So you thought the only way to keep me safe was to push me away?" I asked, a mix of disbelief and frustration in my voice. "You could have told me, Claire. We could have figured something out together." She shook her head, tears brimming in her eyes now. "I couldn't risk it. You don't understand what they're capable of. I thought if I pushed you away, kept you out of sight, they would leave you alone. I didn't want you to get dragged into this mess." I stood there, trying to process everything she was saying. I understood why she had done it, but it didn't make it any easier. The betrayal was still there, the feeling that she had been hiding so much from me for so long. But at least now I understood why. And now that I knew, I couldn't just walk away. I couldn't pretend like everything was fine. "We have to fix this," I said firmly. "We'll figure this out. Together." Claire looked at me, her eyes filled with a mixture of relief and fear. It wasn't going to be easy, but now that the truth was out, we had no choice but to face whatever was coming. Together.